Today's video is on the viral K-drama Teach You a Lesson. Right? I tuned in to teach you a lesson last week without realizing just how bingeable the show was going to be. Like, oh my god, such an entertaining watch. It was deliciously entertaining, but it manages to take itself seriously, and it's so endearing. If you haven't watched it, this is your cue to go watch the show because I will be giving you spoilers, right? So, without further ado, the show revolves around how school violence affects students, teachers, and even parents, right? So, the show is focused on the fictional ERPB, the Educational Rights Protection Bureau, which is established to prevent school violence across schools in South Korea. The show is written so well, and the writers have done such an amazing job at including topics that are really relevant right now. Just last year, I remember reading a news article about how students in high schools in South Korea were taking drugs not for the fun of it, but because they wanted to boost their concentration so that they could study better and score better on exams. So that's just how insanely competitive culture in South Korea is. It's crazy because I thought going to an Indian school was competitive, but I would never ever imagine. I mean, I guess there might be students who do that, but like it's crazy that in South Korea it almost reached a point where it was normalized, and even parents were encouraging their children to take drugs so they can do better on exams, neglecting their health. I mean, leave their mental health, neglecting their physical health as well. The show doesn't entertain unrelated subplots and is not your conventional K-drama in any sense, right? It's a refreshing watch, and the show focuses on how corruption, privilege, and legal loopholes intersect to produce vicious teachers, students, and parents who are willing to stop at nothing for their personal gain. With increasing backlash on the internet against chaebols and their heirs, I definitely have to point out that this show came out at the best time to be able to capitalize on that honestly justified backlash. The only one problem I have with the show is how, in one of the episodes, it focuses on a female student who makes a false accusation that one of her teachers has essayed her. The reason I have a problem with this is because of how statistically these false accusations are incredibly rare. Of course, they do happen, but not only are they uncommon, they are extremely uncommon in conservative countries like South Korea, right? I think it would have been a better storyline to actually focus on victims who have to deal with crimes like this, whether the perpetrators are fellow classmates or teachers. Of course, I'm not for corporal punishment, but the show does only engage in physical punishment when it has exhausted all other methods. Of course, I'm not a South Korean, so I don't know the complete history of corporal punishment and its complexities in South Korea. But as someone who has been beaten by teachers for far less, I would never endorse physical punishments against students until and unless the students were actually engaging in criminal activity or hurting their classmates physically, or even mentally, honestly. The show is genuinely endearing. Of course, it requires a willing suspension of disbelief on your part to believe that every victim can get justice, but the characters are just so connected to the cause, because they're personally connected to it, that it doesn't make it that hard to believe that they would genuinely go above and beyond to make sure every victim got the justice they deserved. We all know that in real life, if a board like the ERPB did exist, even then it would eventually become corrupt. But the show does an excellent job of making the characters' unwavering conviction to the cause believable because of how their lives have been altered by similar incidents involving school violence. All in all, it was a 10 on 10 K drama. I loved how optimistic the show was. It was incredibly satisfying to watch. So go watch it if you haven't already, even though I did end up spoiling a few things. Thank you so much if you stayed until the end of the video, and I will see you next time.